You may be seated. You can proceed with the cross-examination of this witness.
Thank you. Magistrate Garza, when were you sworn in as an attorney?
I'm sorry.
When were you sworn in as an attorney?
In 2005.
And from 2005 to 2007, when you became a referee in the juvenile court, what was your legal experience?
I worked as a litigator at Barnes & Thornburg in South Bend, Indiana.
For how long?
2 years.
And then after that, then you became the referee?
Correct.
And can you tell me, how were you made aware of that referee position?
Relevance.
Where are we going with this?
No, we're just getting background information, that's all, just establishing.
Establishing
Establishing bias, Your Honor.
All right, for that, I'll allow it. Overruled.
How were you made aware of the referee position?
Judge Bonaventura called me and asked me to interview for the referee position.
How long have you known Judge Bonaventura?
Since 2006, I believe.
How did you meet?
We met at a fundraiser. We went to the same high school, and we met at a fundraiser for our high school.
Are you aware that people on public assistance can lose benefits if they miss court?
I am.
Now, you indicated that magistrates can't sign off on any appealable orders.
Correct. Well, cannot order any appealable orders. We can make recommendations. We sign off on them. We just can't order them.
You can't order them.
Correct.
You just make the recommendation.
Correct.
Is that all the magistrates or just the 4D magistrates?
Every magistrate.
Every magistrate, okay. You indicated that having the second 4D court help with the in Crown Point, help with the backlog of cases, correct? That's what you testified to. Okay. Did it only help because it was located in Crown Point, or would it have also helped had that 4D court been placed in Gary?
Well, having a second court would help no matter what. But
okay, thank you very much. Do you hear any contested paternity cases?
Yes.
How often do you hear those cases?
Every day.
Isn't it true that the backlog of cases occurred after the clerk's office held a stack of cases for months without them being filed?
No.
That's not true.
No.
You indicated some of the problems with going to Gary, such as, I guess, parking issues and having adequate space with respect to waiting areas.
Yes.
As far as parking is concerned, is that an issue if you don't own a car? Having a place to park? Or having to pay for parking?
Well, someone has to take you to the courthouse, so I assume it's an issue for whomever's driving you, even if you don't have the car.
Even if you're on the bus?
If you're on the bus, no, that would not be an issue.
It would not be an issue.
No.
And some of those issues, are those kind of administrative issues to be worked out by the person who supervises the court?
I don't understand your question.
Well, the question was with respect to adequate waiting areas in the Gary facility.
Yes.
Isn't that sort of something that somebody who oversees a court would do to try to solve that problem? Would that not be an administrative issue?
I don't know. We were assigned the 4th floor, and that was the only space afforded to us on the 4th floor.
Was there any exploration as to how this problem could be solved?
There was.
Okay, and what was that solution, transfer the court altogether?
No, we looked at having, expanding our waiting area around the courthouse in Gary, and it was determined that we could not.
With the influx of the additional 1,000+ cases from Gary that you talked about, it would seem that you are bursting at the seams in Crown Point as well for parking and waiting space. Is that in fact occurring?
Our court is busy, but I wouldn't say there's inadequate space or it's a safety hazard. It's always been busy. We're the juvenile court, and there's a lot of juvenile cases, but there's no issue about people not having the space to walk into our building or our waiting area, or not having adequate room to stand.
Okay, so you don't have seats for everyone, that there are a lot of people who are standing around because they have no place to sit.
There are usually seats for most everyone. On some days there may not be a seat for everyone, but there's adequate standing room. In Gary there was inadequate standing and seating room.
And about how long does it take for a case to be called? I know you indicated that it's a cattle call. So there may be 150 cases assigned to 8:30 with all of the courtrooms going.
With all of the courtrooms going, I don't think it would be 150, but there might, maybe, I can't give you an exact number because I don't know how all the courts set, but it would not be 150. No one sets 15 cases like the 4D court a setting. Ours is the highest volume, so no other court, delinquency, the non-4D paternity would be setting 15 cases at the same time.
So, are you aware that discussions have been underway to alleviate the parking problems by exploring the possibility of parking taking place over at the West Wind facility?
No. All I knew is that the people who came to Gary had to pay to park, because many of them complained to me why we could park for free as employees and they couldn't park for free.
You weren't aware that there was exploration so that you could alleviate the parking problems that were occurring at Crown Point?
That wasn't in place when I was in Gary. People had to pay to
Crown
park.
Point. Listen to me. That there's a parking problem in Crown Point, and that discussions had taken place to utilize the West Wing facilities to help alleviate that problem.
No.
You weren't aware of that?
No.
Okay. Had you ever discussed some of the concerns that you had with the facility in Gary with the 16 unified Superior Court judges prior to...
It's an objection beyond the scope. That's what he's objecting to.
Well, Your Honor, the scope is that she just got you talking about that there was inadequate waiting room space, that there was inadequate parking, and so I asked that she discuss this with people who had the authority to make a decision with respect to moving that court to some place.
Wouldn't that person be her boss?
Pardon?
Wouldn't that person be her boss?
That's right. Well, I asked if she had ever discussed it with them, so I guess her answer would be yes or no, whether she did or not.
Whether she discussed it with her boss?
That would be my next question, if she discussed it with her.
All right, that one I'll allow.
I don't know what your question is right now. Is it the first question, or was it going to be your next question?
Well, my first question was, did you ever discuss it with them?
With the judges?
Yes.
No, I don't go to the judges' meeting. I'm a magistrate.
Okay. And, well, you did indicate that you did have conversations, or you at least sat in on conversations between Judge Bonaventura and also Judge Tavitas, did you not?
Correct. That was a meeting with just the two of them, not all of the judges.
Oh, well, okay. But that's what I'm saying. You had stated that, so you wanted to clear up. I don't know how many other meetings you've been into with more than those two judges. Have there been any other meetings you've been in with other than those two judges?
With regards to what?
With regards to the 4D, your role in 4D.
With respect to 4D specifically, I don't believe so.
Is it true that you did not like coming to Gary to hear cases?
That's not true.
How did you receive Davita Cooper's records prior to testifying?
Objection relevant.
Overruled. You did ask her about Ms. Cooper.
I withdraw.
I was able to look at the court docket.
Pardon?
I was able to look at the court docket. I was able to look at the file.
How did you know to look at that specific case?
Ms. Cooper's case?
Yeah.
Because the attorneys indicated to look at it.
You indicated that part of the problem with inadequate waiting area space was because whole families come to court.
Correct.
Okay. And presumably those whole families are going to continue to come to court even if it's out there in Crown Point.
Correct.
Correct. And for families without cars or adequate public transportation, they'll have to take the bus or get a ride with someone.
Correct.
So that means that they're carrying these whole families, children, and everybody all in tow.
That's how they got to Gary as well. A lot of them, as you stated before, took the bus, and then they didn't have to pay to park.
And right, nor did they have the time that it takes to get to Crown Point.
Gary and Crown Point aren't that far away from each other.
How far away do you think that they are?
In terms of how long does it take to get from one place to the other in a car?
By car?
Less than a half hour.
And by bus?
I believe less than an hour.
Okay. You think less than an hour by bus? So when you got a family in tow, that time can seem like an eternity. More than less than an hour.
She's testifying.
No. Getting a little-
And irrelevant.
What about the distance to get to Crown Point from Whiting?
Your Honor, this is beyond the scope. It's just,
Well, that's the whole issue here. So, overruled.
How long it would take in a car to get from Crown Point to Whiting? I would suspect about 45 minutes.
How long do you think it'll take to get by bus from Whiting to Crown Point?
I would think somewhere around an hour and a half.
How would someone get from Whiting to Crown Point by bus?
I know that you can take the bus from East Chicago to Gary and from Gary to Crown Point. I don't know from Whiting to East Chicago if there is a bus service. I don't know all of the bus maps around Lake County.
Are you aware of whether any consideration was given to the people who utilized the court when it was at Gary as to how they'll be able to get to Crown Point? Are you aware of any consideration?
There was. People from Gary have come out to Crown Point to go to juvenile court since the juvenile court moved out here for paternity cases, for CHINS cases, for delinquency cases, for protection orders, guardianships, and adoptions.
But what consideration? I guess you're because A here and because of B, then of course A must be okay. And B.
It's never been a problem for anyone to get from Gary to Crown Point where they...
How do you know that it's never been a problem?
We've had people coming out to Crown Point since the court was built.
That's your rationale that there's never been a problem?
Let her answer the question.
I don't know what the question is anymore.
Well, the question is, how do you know that that nobody has ever had a problem getting from Gary to Crown Point or any point?
I have never had a litigant complain to me about getting from Gary to Crown Point in any of the cases that I have heard as the last 6 years as a referee or as a magistrate. No one has raised that issue, that it was a hardship getting from Gary to Crown Point, filed a motion, anything.
And do litigants typically have the wherewithal to file motions?
Yes,
They do.
they do. I get many motions every day in all of my cases. I'm sure I have a stack of them waiting for me. Every day, I have stacks and stacks and stacks. Yes, that's what I do after court.
I have no further questions. Oh, just a second. Did you discuss this case with Judge Bonaventura prior to today?
In terms of what? The case in general?
Yes, the case, how it's going.
I didn't discuss how it was going while it was pending, but we discussed it prior to it pending. While the hearing was taking place, I was separated as a witness, so I wasn't allowed to discuss the case while the hearing was taking place. But when the case was first filed, she obviously let me know that the case had been filed, and we discussed it at that point.
Are you aware that that in a 4D case, a party could lose their license for missing an arrears hearing?
No, they don't lose their license for missing an arrears hearing. They lose their license for being so far behind in child support, not for missing a hearing. It's based on how far behind they are in child support. That's done administratively by the prosecutor's office, not by a judge.
But if they don't have an opportunity to defend themselves?
There's no hearing. It's done administratively. There is no hearing. They don't get to be heard in court on that issue. It's done administratively by statute by the prosecutor's office.
So they don't have an opportunity to challenge the figures of the arrears?
Administratively, they do through the prosecutor's office. They do not in court. They can challenge the amount of arrears, but they can't challenge the fact their license has been suspended because it's not suspended by the court. It's suspended by the prosecutor's office administratively and by the state of Indiana. So they would need to file an administrative hearing with the state of Indiana. It does not come to a judge because the judge no longer suspends the license. The statute changed.
But if the judge determines what the amount of the arrears and determines that the amount of the arrears is incorrect or doesn't exist at all because the person is able to provide you with adequate proof, at that point, would that determination not bear on that person's ability to retain their driver's license or to get it back?
If they owe no arrears?
If they were able to sufficiently prove to the court that they do not owe any arrears, with the determination by the court of that fact following the submission of the evidence, would that order not have a bearing on their driver's license?
If they filed a motion with the court and asked for a hearing to determine arrears, we would determine it based on the evidence. Whether they still owed arrears or not would depend on if they had their driver's license reinstated. But the person who owed the arrears would have to file the motion with the court. I assume if they file a motion, they plan on coming to court. They're not going to miss a court hearing when they file their own motion. It would be based on that person's motion. I don't think anyone who's owed money is going to be filing a motion asking that the other person's arrears be forgiven.
But if a person can't get to the court, which is our whole point.
Then how are we supposed to conduct a court hearing if they can't get to court?
We make sure that the court is accessible by putting it in a place where the majority of the people who have been getting to it in 30-some years can continue to do another question and withdraw that.
I would ask for that to be stricken.
Granted. Anything, redirect.
You asked about the opening of a second 4D court in Gary.
Yes.
Do you foresee any difficulties in that? Having taken that as a possibility?
In opening an additional court in Gary other than the one on the 4th floor?
Yes.
There is no space. None.
Thank you. How would someone get, do you know how someone would get from Lowell to Gary without a car?
They'd have to get a ride from someone. There's no train or bus that goes out to Lowell.
What about from Whiting to Gary?
I don't believe there's a train or bus from Whiting to Gary either.
Do you know of any public transportation between Cherville and Crown Point?
No, there's none.
What about from Munster to Crown Point?
No, there's none.
What about from Dyer to Crown Point?
No.
Highland to Crown Point?
No.
Lowell to Crown Point?
No.
And Cedar Lake to Crown Point?
No.
No further questions.
Blue Cross,
I have one last one. Have you had any discussions with the county commissioners about whether there is adequate space in the Gary facility?
That is not my role, that's my boss's role.
But you just testified that there's not adequate space, so obviously you must know because you just stated that there wasn't. So I'm asking.
I worked in that building, there is no other space in that building.
And how do you know that?
I've walked up and down the building many times. I've been to other courtrooms, I've had meetings with prosecutors around the building, I've been to other courtrooms. There's no more space in that court.
But have you had conversations with the county commissioner?
You're asking the answer.
No, she never said. She never answered that
I thought that was
question.
the first question.
That was the first question, but she has not answered.
No, I have not.
Thank you.
anything else? I have, just to clarify
Sure.
something. You testified, is it your testimony that when people come late in Gary, they can't be heard, and when they come late in Crown Point, they can be heard?
If they come late and we've already heard the case because the cases were staggered at 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10, then if we've already heard the case at 8:30 and the dad doesn't come, let's say, until 9:30, we can't then rehear his case because the mom has already left. In Crown Point, the way we do it, we set everything at 8:30, so we take cases where mom and dad are both there first, and so if a dad doesn't come until 9:30 or 10, typically we won't even get to his case where there's single parties until about 9:30 and 10.
And you can't do that in Gary?
No, because of the waiting room.
Any follow-up on what I asked?
No.
Anything?
Yeah. Is it true that there is a conference room up on the 4th floor?
There is.
And do people wait in the conference room?
We did that for a
Do
short,
people wait in the conference room?
not regularly, no.
Could they wait in the conference room?
No.
Why not?
It's the prosecutor's conference room.
So the space is it's okay. Has anybody explored the possibility of using that?
We did.
Okay. And the prosecutor said no?
The prosecutor said no. That's their only room to meet. Their offices are on all different floors of the building, and that's the only room to meet. That room is also about the size of this witness stand.
Is it possible to wait on any other floor, such as the 3rd floor?
No.
Why is not?
Because those floors are also bursting at the seams. When they have clinics, legal clinics, on the 3rd floor, domestic relations legal clinics, where attorneys from Valparaiso Law School and other places legally actually come to meet with litigants. So if you've ever been there on a morning, it is bustling, to say the least, not to mention we only have one bailiff because of budget cuts in the county, and I can't have the bailiff leaving the 4th floor to go find litigants on the 3rd floor, leaving all of the people on the 4th floor unattended. We don't have anyone but one bailiff, one court reporter, and one magistrate up on the 4th floor. I can't have a bailiff leaving to run around the building.
According to the cooperative agreement that was filed, which included a budget, it said that there was a bailiff/court administrator and then a chief bailiff. So that says that there are 2 bailiffs.
There are not 2 bailiffs, there's one bailiff.
So then that budget is what, wrong, it's a lie, or, because
I don't know what budget you're talking about.
This is and it's fine speculation.
I think we're...
but she's the one said that there was no bailiff.
I said there's one bailiff.
Right, and the
Well, she's
document said
answered the
2.
question, she said there's only one. Anything else from anyone?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me some time.
Could I have a moment, Your Honor? We have no further witnesses, Your Honor.
Are you rest?
We do.
Any rebuttal?
No rebuttal, Your Honor. At this time, we would ask that, in lieu of closing statements, that we be allowed to present
Findings?
findings of facts and conclusions of law.
From both parties.
Yeah.
We have to fact, it's mandatory. I have to issue findings, so let's see what you submit.
Well,
How much time do you need to submit them?
What, 10 days?
10 days? 10 days?
10 days will be fine, Your Honor.
5 days. Oh, 5 days.
5 days?
Consider the fact that
Sure.
it's emergency.
You don't want 10?
I'm going to need 10 days. I've pushed about all my work for the past 4 days.
Let's give you 10
I need
days.
the 10 days.
You can submit them 5, but I'm going to give you 10.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay?
Well, Judge, we have a memo that was filed. Leave that to the court report also.
Well, are you going to file it with your findings?
Yeah.
File it with your
With
findings.
our findings.
Yeah, these are not the facts. These are a memo. I think you figured submitted a memo.
That's your response?
Yes, it's our memo.
It's your response? Yeah. Okay. Did you notice of it? Did you get a copy of
I
it?
haven't gotten a
So we
copy.
just do it.
All right, let's see.
Has Your Honor received the one that we filed?
Yes.
Okay.
He's just going to file stamp that in.
Yeah, just file stamp it. All right. Anything further?
I just want to talk about it. File stamp.
Anything else?
No, no, no.
All right, I'll expect your findings in 10 days.